Welcome to Simply Thriving in the North with your hosts, Aurora Leigh and Brent Goerz. And we have Wesley Mitchell today as our guest. Welcome, Wesley.
Hadi, so it's yes, it's an honor to share space today and share some of my experience, strength, and hope today. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell the viewers a bit about yourself. We were situated in Leigh territory, and we're in Prince George, BC.
Yeah.
And let us know, where are you at as a community member in Prince George?
Well, community member, you've highlighted it. I'm a guest here on the ancestral lands of the unceded territory of the Lheidli. I've been here since 1986, and the past 6 years have been very positive and community-driven experiences for me that I love to be, always have since '86. Loved Prince George. Loved, the past 6 years I've realized this is Lheidli territory and didn't have much culture, right? So I take acknowledgement on that, and to the best of my ability as a guest, I share good medicine, love, and I always speak from the heart, right? So. It can be a crazy world, but you downsize it to a community, to a family, and then to yourself, and one day at a time you can walk forwards with hope. Yeah.
I was so excited when Auroara kind of said that we were going to have the opportunity to actually have you on the show and kind of dive a little deeper. I think I've known you in tiny little pockets, as far as all your community activism and your community connections, and to kind of have the honor of sitting with you for a whole half hour and kind of being able to connect some of the dots, because I haven't had the time.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm honored, and like community and out there volunteering and drumming, and then we get to connect, and that's how it happens, is the actions of being out in the community, and that's how we met, Brent.
Yes.
And that's how we also met too as well. I think at CNC was the first time we met, Auroara?
I think the drum circle, because Ivan and Amelia both invited me to the drum circle that you do outside of the hospital there.
So yeah, it's definitely, we're all big, Prince George has this big bad label throughout Canada when it's a beautiful community with good people, and every community has its issues, and we get to sit here, three people together, and have a conversation about life, about my recovery, and just about this beautiful community we live on the territory.
I just as you were talking there, I'm imagining the spider web, and you've got all these connections, and yet, not to be centric, but it emanates from that healing journey. And so if you can kind of start us with, not going too deeply into it, but just where you came from and what life was like kind of when things were more broken, because we are about wellness on this show, but we're also about truth, right? And so we don't want to just gloss over kind of the tough stuff.
Yeah, so, well, the tough stuff, and it won't be a rated PG. I'm going to be open and go deep with you, like I said. 98, my stepfather died in a car accident on Connaught Hill, Terry Ferguson, and I dabbled with alcohol and weed and all that, and then cocaine came into my life. So from 98 to 2017 was a lot of rises and falls, but a lot of deep falls. And they say there's a rock bottom, but for me there wasn't. I just keep digging deeper and deeper, right? And that's the process. It starts from drinking and smoking weed to opening up other doors, because you can't cope with life on life's terms, right? So.
Was there a specific turning point for you, or was it just kind of lots of little seeds that were planted kind of throughout your life?
Lots of seeds, early childhood. I have a lot of it blocked out, to be honest. From 7 years and under, I've never worked on that part of me, but that's okay. I move forwards, and I know there was a lot of abuse, and I just, going into my teenage years when my stepfather Terry came into my life, he brought us to Prince George, and everything started to get very well then, right? Like, went to school, played hockey, did all the things, that were not there for me in early childhood in Smithers, right? It was survival mode there, and fighting because I was Indigenous and Dutch. And when I'd go to Whitset, you know, I was Dutchman, and I took it to heart. And then when I came to Smithers, I was the Indian, right? And that kind of stuck with me for my life, right? But that's the way it was back then, right? So, but when I came to Prince George, settled into schools here, and you know, had a good family life with my mom and my stepfather and my older brother Rick, and you know, it just transitioned into, you know, going through schooling, and a lot of these things that happened when I was younger, kind of when I opened the door to alcohol at 13 years old, and weed, kind of opened those doors, opened up that memories of the childhood, and the glorifying that would happen with the drinking that was going on around me. And, you know, it was all fun and games until a certain time, then people got angry and there was fights. And, you know, so that's kind of what I thought of. And when I drank, that just kind of flowed through me. And you know, that's the intergenerational trauma I didn't know about for many, many years. But when I turned 40, I figured it out at Wilpsis at a healing center. But, you know, so much going on. So the turning point was my stepfather dying.
Yeah.
Hitting the generator, hitting all the nightclubs at that time. It was thriving here. The forestry industry was thriving, and it was party, go to work, not even sleep, and go to work at the mill, right? Then I lost my job. Terry died, then I lost my job at the mill, and everything I had accumulated, material things, but things like mountain biking, and like my mountain bike and my mountain bike friends were lost, so I had to sell everything, my truck, everything. Then the next thing, you know, I was introduced to raves, and you know, you start hanging out, people, places, and things. Started hanging out with people that wanted to not really put into society or put into life and put into the working environments, and you know, just party. And I opened up doors that I couldn't close. Continuing on quickly, you know, it just, I rise and fell, and every time I rise and fell, I opened up a new door. The nevers became a reality. Like I'll never ended up smoking crack, right? And that one got me the most, smoking crack in Calgary. I tried the flight to Edmonton and ended up in Calgary, and at Stampede, you know, I was working away in one of my rises and still drank. I always had to have some kind of mind-altering substance in my body, and then that just leads to another mind-altering substance. And I remember a homeless couple, or unsheltered, I shouldn't even say that, handed me a crack pipe, and as soon as I hit that pipe, my whole life changed. The 3 days of going hard, smoking it with people in my apartment. I had a nice apartment downtown Calgary, 27th floor. You know, it just trying, and then like probably good 10 to 15 years of ending up in crack shacks all over BC and Alberta, ending up, you know, just selling everything I had, ripping off my family, my friends, the people that I grew up with. I lost a lot of deep relationships. Yeah. And when you lose all this and all this is going on, you just want to numb it out, right? And you don't care. You know, I ended up on the streets.
Well, the core is to not feel the pain, right? That's the core. And there's so much stigma on those who use substances to cope. But the reality is they have that much pain that they're going to something that will numb it, right? Before they have tools to process it in a different way or something else that helps it, right? And so I think that it's really powerful that you're sharing with us, you know, about the reality of that is because you had pain.
Yeah. And that pain leads you to, like, just to continue on, I'd say I go deeper, and I never went that, you know, like I ended up down in Surrey, and that was rough. Like that was the roughest rough, and you know, I was walking into superstores down there, filling carts up with TVs underneath it, and just everything, and just walking straight out, and stealing vehicles down there, and you know, just hanging out with, I always hang out with working girls, and I'll say that in a kind way, the most beautiful hearts come from these women, right? And we'd watch out for each other, but I'd do all these things that are, you know, against society and just unlawful, right? And I put myself in a stolen car. I put myself going into a superstore and sketching out and grabbing stuff, sometimes just ditching it and taking off, and you know, then going out with the working girls and watching their back while they're doing a date, right? And everything was fixated on the drug, your drug of choice. At that time for me, it was crack. And it gets worse, the drug of choice that I went to. And, you know, it was a culture. I got used to it. You get comfortable in that culture. It's a lifestyle that, you know, I forgot about mom, dad, my brother. I forgot about all my family. You're not in a zone. All of a sudden, you're just in a different environment, and that's your environment. And I got comfortable in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, not showering, you know, not eating, barely ate, buck a slice of pizza once in a while, or McDonald's cheeseburgers I lived off of, right? And you just migrate. You find, like, I remember this big, huge crack shack. It was a big, huge house right in Surrey Central, right? And I'd be the door donkey, opening the door and letting people in and out. And how many times the police came busting in, and one time my face was just black and blue, and they beat me and they raided the place, and you know, and then in the stolen car I got pulled down by the cops. You know, I was in a superstore, sketchy as F, right? And you know, they pulled me down right before I went to this drug dealer's house with the stuff I had, and arrested me, right? And you know, all these things were transpired because I was fixated on a drug of choice that was hard for me to let go of. The initial, you can't explain the initial high you get. It's sexual, it's there's so much to it. It's addictive, it feels good, you numb out all the stuff that you've done, and it's hard. And like, I see the women, the working girls, I see the drug dealers doing it, and then it's just a cluster, right? So
let's fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's interesting, even while you were in such a difficult place, you were still leading from the heart.
Yeah.
And so kind of fast forward, after you kind of worked on yourself, you talked about kind of going through some treatment, and then continuing to work on yourself that year. When did it become clear to you that you needed to give back, that you needed to connect with the community in a positive way?
Well, during those times, and it wasn't just that, I'd go to treatment centers, intervisions, detox. You know, I never gave up, and that's because my mom would fly down from wherever to rescue me, and I'd get a moment of clarity. So tough love was hard. She'd have to give me tough love, and she would rescue me. To your question there, right, I had to put that in there because I couldn't do it myself, and it was random strangers. Sometimes it's not family and friends that can help you, it's a random stranger. Moving forwards, just never gave up, kept going to detox, going to treatment, you know, doing the 12 steps. But in 2013, I went to a treatment center, Wilpsasset, and I found a little bit of my culture. And then I went out and got really bad, and that's just, I ended up doing, I have to put this in here, I ended up doing, injecting heroin and meth. And that's where I was in 2017, downtown, east side, fear and loathing, 170 pounds, and then I went back to Wilpsasset. I don't know what it was. I was outside Metrotown, something hit me in the face. My mom, I called my mom right away and my family, and I said, I'm coming home. She was like, yeah, right. Drove home, took 3 days, got home, went to Prince George Detox again. When I was in there, contacted Wilpsasset, all these things happened because of Creator. Got into there and did 3 months of treatment. In that 3 months, I really concentrated on Gary Patsy and Ed Harris, 2 elders. Always knew elders were the ones, and they are the ones with the experience to talk to. They talked about 60 Scoop, they talked about residential schools, they talked about culture, and they talked about picking up a drum. And I had experience with the Kazdan drummers before in 2015 to 17. They really helped me, Jennifer Piggin with the drum, right? Gifted me a drum, got me up on stage at the Canada Games, and that was a highlight. That was a turning point for the good, right? And for culture. And then I went and did 4 months at Wilpsasset and got out, and almost, you know, I did work during these times sometimes, but I'd lose a job. I was going to go back up to Mackenzie and do the watering, but randomly, one of these randomly nurses that kept, and friends that kept helping me on my way to get back to Prince George, told me about a job with All Points. And I got on with All Points with Rose and Sean Mills, and I worked with them for a month and a half in waste management. Huge waste management, bought them. Sean looks at me and he goes, no, he played me a little bit. He says, don't worry, you're included in the deal, right? Our workers. So I went up there and I never looked back because, you know, I had a criminal record, a lengthy criminal record, my driving record, because I was fear and loathing all over, 24 hours everywhere. There's no way I would have got on there, right? So I got on there, and since then, you know, I kept busy. I had a job, I had the 12 steps, I had culture, I had the drum, and I moved forward. So the good is coming here, right? And that was in September 6th, 2017 is when I went to Prince George Detox. And you know, one day at a time, I haven't looked back, right? And
what do you think hit you in the face? I think it's, you know, for those that maybe they're still in their space, it's really important to unpack that a little. What do you think hit you in the face?
Well, I went down there with 4 people. One of them's passed on, Johnny, Alec, and then 2 girls, 2 girls and women, and one of them stuck with me the whole time. And every time we'd go to all over the place, and I said you get comfortable in that environment and that culture, but you always get stabbed in the back some form of way or effed over, and I just got sick of being taken advantage of. Like, I'd take my shirt off my back and help people even in those situations, drive them to wherever, whatever. I was always the mediator, helper, or watching out for the women, or even watching out for my dealers. Like, because there is good people, but in the end, somehow you always get messed up, or you're just sick of being sick and being around sick, unhealthy people. And where was I going with this again?
How did you get hit in the face? Because you said something hit you in the face, and then you called your mom, and you were ready to go home and go to treatment. Getting
torn out of, all these things went through my head outside of Metrotown, being flung out of the car in Calgary by the RCMP, being flung in Delta, nailed down and almost getting the doors kicked in, watching, and this is the truth, just watching UN gang members beat guys, all these horrific things that have happened while I've observed them beating a guy, seeing people get stabbed, watching people get beat with a golf club, and I'm like, this is not me. And just thinking of I don't know, I just had a moment of clarity and wanted to get out of that lifestyle and get home, and I knew the process, because I kept doing that process, and it almost worked, but I
you were just done. You just felt done.
Yeah. Done.
But was there something within you that knew there must be another side to life?
Oh, yeah.
What was that feeling at that time when you just knew you were done? You knew that there would be something on the other side of this work you were about to go through in treatment?
And I think just to pick up on that, we talk about intergenerational trauma, but there's also intergenerational resiliency.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was kind of the seed piece that I was talking about, where you've got these healthy kind of seed pieces within this kind of life of chaos, right? Where you're kind of being deceived, by the substances.
As well. And it's like I had mentioned earlier, I just remember random people. Like, I'd lay all my stuff out in front of my car, buying something off me so I could continue on. A lady saying from a church, from some kind of church, invited me. It was a random people that Creator would send to me and remind me of my mom, remind me of my brother, remind me of my father, and then when I did I didn't know at the time a little bit about culture, but about the traumas that happened, right? So it's people that go above and beyond and just randomly reach their hand out to you, or buy you a meal, or even give you money. I know I don't suggest it, but even giving you money, like buying something that might have been stolen off of you, and I don't agree with that, but it helped me get through some tough times, right?
An act of kindness that shows people care and you matter.
That's right, and I truly know it's the Creator, because I didn't do it. It was the Creator. 3 days of driving home with my arms just numb and just welts everywhere from injecting and just sick, and had grabbed the Mickey and it barely got me to Cache Creek. Here I am falling asleep, like just dangerous, no good stuff, right? But the one girl that came back with me, Desi is her name, and she's still around, and she got me home to Quesnel. When we stayed in Quesnel, it took us 3 days to get to Quesnel, but we got there, and these nurses that transferred me money through Facebook got us each little way, and I just, I didn't buy drugs with the money that time. I brought gas to get home. That resiliency, I stood up with solidarity within myself, and the ancestors were with me, and I got home, right? My mom, once I got to Quesnel, my mom and dad realized I was serious this time, but serious, right? And got me the rest of the way home, let me stay at their house, and then, I did that whole 4 months, and after getting the job at Waste Management, and then becoming, as soon as I wore all hats, I was shop steward, started a safety committee there, and all these things were things that had accumulated in the past that were always with me. I got my class 1. I was messed up when I got my class 1, and the reality of it, I was on meth, and I got it. And these are just the truths for me, right? And I just kept moving forwards, and they all accumulated, to get to where I am today. 6.5 years later, I stuck with Waste Management, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 115, helped me. And I say those because I owe them the respect to get me. And this is how I got into community. My job, I'm out there, doing people's essential sanitary or waste management, and I met community people, and I knew about volunteering through. I volunteered at the Canada Games, and that's how I met the Cat Stand Drummers. When you do the little extras, you volunteer, you network, you find the good people, places, and things, and that environment is essential to recovery. You can do the 12 steps, meetings, that all helps, but eventually you got to get into community. You always got to work, you got to get into community, keep busy, and network, and meet beautiful people, and find your passion. The drum was my passion. You know, I learned from those elders that Wilpsa said about what happened to my dad, what happened to my grandmother on my Dutch side, and that's on my Indigenous side. Not only that, though, I concentrated on my mom and the settling, coming over from Holland, you know, a war where they were being slaughtered by Germans, right? And these traumas that went down my tree and led to me. I finally had a clarity of, once I did the 12 steps and focused on my roots, who I was, whose house this was, and how it was built, right? And I moved forwards, and I'm honored to be Dutch. I'm honored to be Indigenous, and I know the traumas, but I don't focus on those traumas anymore because there's nothing we can do about the past. The thing is, all these experiences I can use to help people. I understand when I'm down in Moccasin Flats or Smithers Encampment, what these people are going through and the lineage that's gone through them. No matter what color or race they are, I help them, right? And share my story. And the best thing is to bring out a drum, offer a cigarette, and listen. Offer some food, right? It might not happen right away, but that miracle is happening when you're there, the actions of working with them. And that helps me, right? So, you know, the pandemic happened and I started drumming. That's what saved my life, like besides all the things that I've said, but that's what gave me a voice, I should say, and saved my life and gave me my culture back. You know, when I started drumming. And then I start dancing, you get your spirit back. And you start drumming, you get your heartbeat back. You know, these are things that I've learned, you know, and you know, I have family that just supports me.
Well, that's a good time for a segue for the drum, because we have 4 minutes left, and we might as well do that then. Yeah. So, I mean, you're focusing now on helping others, and you're a bridgeway, hey, because you've been there. You've walked through those fires, and then you're trying to help others through. Yeah. And tomorrow is? So you want to introduce what is happening tomorrow, and then we'll do the Women's Warrior song?
National Day of for the Red Dress Society, or for all missing and murdered Indigenous women. There needs to be justice within the justice system, and justice for those that are being murdered out there, right? So I advocate to the best of my ability.
This is not for... It's not about ego, it's not about politics, there's not about who's on the front line doing it. It's about those who are still struggling that we really want to help. We want to help them because they also deserve to live a life free from that pain, you know? And it's about them, it's not about any of the other stuff.
And whether it's in the physical or in the spirit world, it's all one energy that needs to bring positive. There's going to be bad energy, but we fight back with positive energy, and you know, even online I use social media, and I said I cover out loud, and that needs to be done. You know, you're going to have your critics, but they've got issues too, right? That they don't want to hear it. But I'm not going to walk by somebody on the streets and not highlight what's going on in the real world when people want to bash them or that stigma. It's like no, let's help. Let's not sit here and bash it. Let's help.
Do you want to share why we're going to sing the Women's Warrior song together today?
Why?
Yeah.
To honor the ones that have no justice, like Jessica Patrick, Frances Brown, who's never been found. There's families, you know, the Jack family's never been found. We want to honor these unknowns, right? And like I talked about that energy and the frequencies these drums can bring, the prayers these drums can bring. We're going to drum because we want that prayer, we want that energy, and we want that, you know, that judgment and stigma to end. And that's one way to do it, is with this voice and this, you know, sacred medicine. Your ancestors, all of our ancestors are with us when we call them. I'll say Hazel Mitchell from the Gidim Den, come be with me. I'll say Tina DeWitt from the Netherlands of Holland, come be with me. And I'll think of those two matriarchs in my family, right? My mom's still here. I think of Kathy Ferguson. I love you. Even though she's with the little ones in Edmonton right now, and I love the little ones, right? And I get in pictures. So we send that. We send those beats. That's just a single beat, but look at this. We do it together.
Hey, 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 yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, hey, 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 yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, hey, 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 yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, hey, 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 yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, hey, 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 yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh, yah-hee-oh, hey, yah-hee-oh.
Honoring Martina Pierre for that song. Hey, hey, from Lillooet.
Women are so sacred, all are so sacred. Mother Earth is so sacred. And when the earth is treated sacred again, women will be treated sacred again. When women are treated sacred again, the earth will be treated sacred again. Thank you for asking us to do the Women's Warrior Song on Simply Thriving in the North. Thank you, Wesley Mitchell, for sharing your bravery, your strength, your courage, and being a role model for others, and bringing everyone together in such a beautiful and big way. Thank you.
Yes. Tabi Masai Kyo, Aho, all my relations. West, y'all.